So here's the thing. If you're a white person, I'm a white person, how often do I think about being white? You don't think about it every day. If you're cisgender, how often are you actually sitting down and thinking about your gender? If you're straight, how often are you sitting down and thinking, saying like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I'm so straight? You don't. You don't think about it. And that right there is the definition of privilege. Hey guys, so I had somebody send me a link on my Facebook recently. It was a link to an article that had been written in a school newspaper about LGBT people becoming the bully. It's this weird, semi-disturbing trend that I see, but I think it also has a small amount of validity to it. And so it's something I want to bring up and discuss and see what you guys thought. So the concept is this. As equality for the LGBT community becomes a reality around the country and also around the world, in a lot of places. In some places it's going the opposite direction. I'm looking at you, Russia, and also Africa. Most of Africa. Stop it, you guys. That LGBT people are at risk of becoming the bully towards people who believe in traditional marriage, and that now the oppressed are becoming the oppressors, and it's just such bullshit when you start to think about it. So here's the thing. So if you believe in traditional marriage, aka straight only marriage, aka marriage is only between one man and one woman, then basically what you're saying is, I think that as a straight person, I'm entitled to all of these rights that are associated with this institution. But at the same time, I don't think that these other people, because of their sexual orientation or gender identity or whatever, are entitled to these rights. And that right there is the definition of prejudice. And my mom is famous for saying this thing, because I would get really upset with her. We'd get in these arguments about my gender identity or about gay marriage or whatever. And I'd start being like, this, like, you're just being a bigot. And she'd be like, well, you are being intolerant. You're being intolerant of my intolerance. And that's crazy. When you're making an argument that, oh, people are, calling us bigots, or they're calling us names, they're calling us intolerant for believing in these values and traditional values or whatever. What you're really saying is, be more tolerant of my intolerance. And the answer to that is no. Now, where this has some validity is when I hear somebody talking about how they think marriage is between one man and one woman, I automatically assume that they're homophobic and that they're a bigot and that they're just, in general, a terrible person. And so I'm guilty of making that assumption based on their values that they're expressing. Whatever sort of belief you have, I have no doubt that individual people have been bullied for it. When it comes to a systemic level, these are very different things. So how many times has somebody who believes in heterosexual marriage only been walking down the street and been harassed? How many times has that person been denied a job or been forced into a dishonorable discharge from the military? How many people are homeless because they believe in straight-only marriage? This doesn't exist. This isn't an issue with oppression the same way it is for LGBT people who are oppressed. This is an issue of individual people feeling like their views are being attacked. And that's very different than systemic oppression, which we have in the LGBT community. So like Piers Morgan recently in his interview with Janet Mock was talking about like he was doing all these terrible things, sensationalizing her gender and her transition, and like putting on screen like, oh, it was a man, and focus on like surgery and sex and disclosure and all these things that just sensationalize the trans experience. And then when Twitter is like, hey dude, this is terrible, how do you even call yourself a journalist? He's like, oh, everyone's being a bully and attacking me. No, you're being prejudiced, you're being intolerant, and people are calling you out on it. And there's a big difference between being a bully and being called out on being intolerant or being a bigot or being transphobic. There's a big difference. It's real, and people just need to shut the fuck up. That's all I had to say. I'll see you guys later.